Hey, thanks for checking out my latest video. Hey, peeps. Here I'm going to go over the Week 9 NFL slate, primarily pertaining to DraftKings ReignMakers, but also for DFS in general or even betting. This is as of Thursday, sort of like mid-afternoon before the games start, and projections do change, especially heading into Sunday. And just take everything with a grain of salt. If any information or the over/unders or the totals, double check them yourself, and they can change. But we're heading into Week 9 here. So let's do an overlook and some various information that I've got for you. And the projections I use are from a premium DFS site that has given me some good information this year, or some really good at times, sometimes not quite as good, but they've definitely nailed some good ones in various sports. But so on Week 9, these teams are on byes: Cleveland, Dallas, Denver, the Giants, Pittsburgh, and San Francisco. Not a ton of super fantasy players in those. I mean, there are some from each team: Barkley, Chubb, the Dallas players, the 49er, McCaffrey. Pittsburgh and Denver have been pretty horrid so far in fantasy. So, real quick, if you aren't aware, DraftKings did change the superstars this week. They're going to do it one more time during the season, and they did not add more. They actually reduced the number, which is, I guess, good in some ways. I was surprised. I thought they were going to add more to make people diversify their lineups more, which I kind of wish they had in some ways, to go against people just having very small player pools of the top players. But whatever the case, they added Hurts, Burrow, Chubb, Saquon, and Tyreek Hill are now superstars. 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, and a wide receiver. They removed the superstar tag from Aaron Rodgers, Cook, Najee Harris, Jonathan Taylor, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, and Debo. So 1 quarterback, 3 running backs, 3 wide receivers. As far as where we stand right now, for the rest of the season, now there may be other ones. These were what popped to mind, though, but a couple of the non-superstar stacks that you may want to watch, keep an eye peeled for, because those give more flexibility when you're doing them. But Murray and Hopkins is one, and Dak and Lamb is one as well. There may be others, but keep an eye on those. And also noteworthy that they did remove Dalvin Cook, who's been, I believe, putting up pretty good numbers, and Jonathan Taylor, who hasn't yet, but obviously he was, I think, the number 1 pick in fantasy drafts heading into this year. So one to keep in mind as the season goes along. Others, you have to keep an eye peeled, or others that are not superstars, you can research on your own. So taking a look at Week 9, where we stand right now, you got the Thursday, Sunday, and Monday games, which are showdowns and also can be used in the deep contest. Philly, Houston, Tennessee, Kansas City, and Baltimore, New Orleans. The only one of those with the relatively high total is Baltimore, New Orleans. I consider over 47 points a high team total, and a high game total, and generally over 25 plus, but it varies as far as a team total. And this comes into play when you're looking to stack games, stack teams, what to focus on type of thing. You generally want to be on the higher scoring projected teams. Obviously, you can stick in from other players and games as well. The highest scoring implied totals currently for teams, from the data I have, are Philly, Buffalo, and KC, pretty far ahead of the pack, 29 or higher, which is high. Of course, these two are considered the best 2 teams right now, and these 3, the highest powered offenses pretty much among them. Then you have above 25 or higher, you have Green Bay, the Chargers, Miami, Arizona, Baltimore, the Bengals, and the Raiders. So pretty large group there at 25 or higher compared to other weeks. This designates that these 3 are projected like really strong blowout games. They're favored by quite a bit. So make of that what you will. That can mean that the other team may get some garbage points, but the game itself, this one's not projected that high, that one's not projected that high, and that one's not projected that high. So none of those 3 games are projected that high. Make of that what you will. The Miami and the Bengals are relatively low game totals. So make of that what you will as well. Could be that they don't come in that high. If the game script plays out as a close sort of, Bengals are favored almost by blowout numbers, like 7.5 points, I think. But Miami's not. I think they're 5. I have to double check. As far as the games themselves, the 4 that are the highest totals are Vegas, Jacksonville, Green Bay, Detroit, Chargers, Atlanta, and Seattle, Arizona. All those 48.5 or higher. Pretty high scoring. There's no sub 40-point games this week. There's been a couple the last 2 weeks, which is very, very low when you're not even sort of at the midpoint of the season. On these games, there's reasons to not like these two to go over. The Green Bay, Detroit, and Vegas, Jackson, or to be cautious. But I would say of those, I can go either way. But this one in particular, everybody's looking for a bounce back from the Raiders because of such a poor offensive performance last week. And Jacksonville hasn't been doing much offensively. So this total to me honestly looks high. And I own a bunch of Raiders and Jacksonville in the DraftKings ReignMakers game, so I would like them to put up a lot. But this total looks high to me. I know that's what they're banking on is a bounce back performance offensive wise by both teams, and poor defense there. But that one I would be cautious of banking on that as a high scoring game. This one I think actually to some degree this one and these two look good as well. And I would say these are sort of under the radar a little bit. I mean, everybody knows Detroit's defense is bad, but but Green Bay's offense is bad. But I could see this one's falling in line, this one falling in line, and this one as well, a little bit under the radar. I would say those three. As far as these, that looks a little low. That may be high. That may be low. That honestly, I wouldn't take the over in that. I wouldn't take the over in that. That one's hard to say. That's probably not going to go over that either. So these would be the 4 games if you're looking at totals to focus on, and these would be the teams to focus on. But of course, some of these are in showdowns. Baltimore's in a showdown, KC's in a showdown, Philly's in a showdown. So that knocks out those 3 from the main slate. So using the site's projections, now this is what I came up with. There could be off, or there could be different combinations, but as far as their projected like top 2 stacks, now blue means a superstar player, and orange means a showdown game, and kind of like light red means a running back. But this is sort of in order of how they have it projected of the top 2-man stacks from what my eyeball calculations came up with, or what my calculations came up with. Allen Diggs, the top pair. Hurts and A.J. Brown's showdown or deep only. Murray Hopkins, no superstar. Burrow Higgins above Tua and Hill. They are banking on Higgins having another bounce back week, and the Bengals, fantasy wise. Tua and Hill, Jackson and Andrews above Mahomes and Kelsey, but those are both superstar showdown games and deep roster only with tight ends. Actually, Rodgers and Jones, Lazard playing status not currently known at this time. I think he may play. They have Rodgers projected pretty high, and depending on what wide receiver, and they have Jones projected high. He does catch balls, so I think you could consider that a 2-stack type of thing. And then Carr and Adams, which had a terrible week last week. I own 4 Devontae Adams. I own Carrs. I own, so I would love to see him bounce back big, because that's what cost me this past week, not getting some smaller cashes. As far as 3 stacks, these were the ones that I saw and calculated. The top highest scoring one of a 3-stack was actually Hurts, A.J. Brown, and Devontae Smith, but that's a showdown one. And then Carr, if you throw Jacobs in there and Adams, he's a running back, but he has been getting pass receptions. Remember, DraftKings is PPR, full PPR. Then Tua, Hill, and Waddle. So they have this one above this one currently. Then Burrow, Higgins, and Boyd. So that pushes Miami a little above Cincinnati there. Then Cousins, Cook, and Jefferson. They don't have Cousins, Jefferson particularly that high relatively. I own them. I own all three of these, so I would like to see them all come in big. But so Cousins, Cook, and Jefferson. Cook has been catching some balls. And then Smith, Lockett, and Metcalf. I own these two, multiples of those, and they've done well for me some weeks. They burn me some weeks. But again, this is showdown only. Now, as far as what their chalk lineups are, this is sort of like what I came up with, just doing some quick calculations. Now, this is using unique players and sort of focusing on a stack orientation and then working it down. So like the Allen Diggs with Jacobs, St. Brown, and Jones comes in at 110 projected points. There's like a multiplier I use on these, so that's around 165 projected points. So usually like 150 plus is where you get high cashes in the fiat contests. And then using all unique players, the next three down would be Murray, Hopkins with Mixon, Kupp, and Etienne, 107. Then Burrow, Higgins with Cook, Boyd. That's a three-man. Burrow, Higgins, Boyd with Cook and Lockett, 94. And the next one's a three-man as well, with because this doesn't use showdown players. With Tua, Hill, Waddle, with Walker and Stevenson, 92. So you can see by the time you get down to sort of a fourth unique lineup, you're down to like 90 points, which is what generally how it runs. So if you have projections in the 90s, you're not that far off the chalk type lineups. And if they hit right, you can come in good in tournaments. Then on the deep, if you the thing with the deep this week is all these big name players and teams are in it. Philly, KC, Baltimore, and New Orleans have big name players. So if you decide to do showdowns, then you're going to use those players there. But if you have extra ones or you decided to put them in a deep, you could do this lineup, and it projects very high. Hurts with Brown and Smith. Pierce in the same game as Philly tonight. Kamara in the Monday night game. Sorry, I'm just trying to look back at when these games are. Kelsey and Andrews from the showdown games. Tucker, the Baltimore kicker, and the Buffalo defense. So that's the only one not in a showdown. And that projects out to 159, and that doesn't use any players that have been used anywhere else. 159, which is like a 215 with the multiplier I put on there. 200 plus is a good placing in the deeps. So that's sort of like a chalk deep lineup, but also focusing on the showdown games. So that's 5 right there. I ran some of my projected lineups and put some in where they're at currently to see where I stand. And the week previous, my highest were all fiats, but this week there's some high cores. And I sort of went a little bit less stacking on mine and a little more focused to the fiats over the deeps. I vary that from week to week on how I build them out. I'm still debating with the showdowns how I'm going to do it because I've been doing poor in the showdowns overall. Although getting a $20 cash in the rares does boost my totals as a smaller player, showdowns. But it's been hard to win those without the top, like at least 2 of the top names and a couple others in there. So I'm debating whether to keep, because I have some of the guys from those top teams that are in the showdowns, whether to keep those in the showdowns or put them in deeps. But nonetheless, when I built mine out, my top core lineups projected came in 103, 91, and 87. And then I did 3 rares. I actually did the rares first. They came in 92, 86, 84, which is a little lower than last week. But that's like one pretty good rare and then a couple that could be good. Core 1 really strong, and one pretty strong, and then another one. So, I've been trying to build depth, especially on the rare side. Trying to buy more quality over quantity, but I have that problem. And then with the deeps, the best core one I built was 149, which is actually very strong. Although that's primarily showdown focused only, because you could use these players in showdown or in the deep. But this is what was with remainder players. The best core was 149. The best rare deep was 114, which is very low. And the deeps, unfortunately, have gotten more competitive to cash in as time has gone along, because I was cashing a lot in the deeps and hit high in them, and now I haven't been. So you've been needing better scores to do well in the deeps. And this past week, I left a roster spot open on all my deep lineups, which was like 8 or 9 of them. I left the roster spot open at the end to add players from the Sunday and Monday games if I needed to. And I ended up adding a couple Green Bay and a couple Buffalo and maybe a Bengals, and none of those really worked out that well for me. So it's like I sort of spent $5, $6, $7 on core players that they're all right, but like I didn't really need them. So I'm not doing that this week. I'm just going to kind of let it roll, I think, in general, and not try to leave a spot open. The week I finished third in a deep, I had just let it roll. I didn't. But I think the people that caught me had done that. But that's one strategy people are doing, is leaving you could leave your flex open, and then if you're in contention, you could go ahead and buy like a Kamara or an Andrews, or even a Lamar if you have your superstar open and your quarterback. But in the flex spot, or there, a Kelsey, Henry's a superstar, but that type of thing. The Thursday game's the first one. So that's some of it in a nutshell of what's sort of projected in the high scoring games right now, based on one site and based on the sort of like the Vegas over unders. So good luck this week. I'll probably do another video late Saturday or Sunday before the games start with maybe some more updated projections. Good luck, and hope we hit big in some ReignMakers and DFS this week. Let me know if you do in the comments. Thanks for liking and subscribing. Appreciate it. All right, have a good one, guys.